Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Wanted to do a review of a Bible I got yesterday. Sometimes I feel these reviews cannot be completely honest when you haven't been with the Bible long enough, so to speak. So this is just a review from the time I've had it and some things I've noticed already. I have read it most of the part last night, clear up till like midnight, and figured I'd just get this review out of the way. As you can see, you can probably guess it's gold art gilt pages. They seem to do the gold on the box when they do that. It's the Stridon NASB marbled mahogany calfskin full yap. You can see it looks really nice, and it actually shows up nicer marble in video and pictures than it does in person. Honestly, in person it's almost harder to see the marbled mahogany, but it's not as dark and defined as my PSQ ESV was, but that's still okay with me. It's not that big of a deal. So as you can see, it's got fairly nice grain. I didn't get like a real deep grain on this one, as you see on some of the reviews, which is kind of a bummer, but oh well. It's still a nice piece of leather. Calfskin's always smoother than the goat skin. And you can see it is tooled around the text block and perimeter stitched. The spine has the 6 raised hubs, or bands as they're actually called, and the gold foil stamping of Schuyler's logo, New American Standard, and Holy Bible. And this is the New American Standard 2020, by the way. Might have been a scuff there, but again, this cowhide, the more it gets scuffed, the better it looks anyway. So that's not a big issue for me as well. We have 3 1-centimeter ribbons, 2 dark brown and a gold. And the head and tail bands are brown. There we go. Kind of a goldish brown mix, I guess. And you can see that gold foil stamped, gold foil gilt line on the inside perimeter of the cover. Before I get started on the rest of this, I just want to bring up that at first I was like kind of bummed, but now I'm like, well, you know what? It's not that big of a deal, because if you see that tool line, it goes right around that text block. It's perfect on the NLT. It's not so perfect on this. If I can focus it, I will try to get it in the light. Anyways, as you can see, the text block's over here more, and it shows more if you can get the right angle from the side, which is hard to do with a one-handed review. But as you can see, this has more yap down here. You can also tell because the text block is behind this. It's not that much. When you're looking at it from the front, it looks worse. It's even worse in person. See, there you go. See how that folds over? You can clearly tell it's uneven. It bothered me at first, but then I realized it's a perfect imperfection. Like, nothing's perfect except for the Word of God itself. And not always in the English translations either. But anyway, there's the foil stamped gold calfskin leather cover writing. And the corners look amazing to me. Every time I look at a Schuyler, it looks amazing to me. So they are edge lined, as always on the Schuyler. Again, these edge lining on these full yaps seem not to be so far out, and I think that allows them to lay flatter, honestly. Maybe that's something they're doing in all their stuff, because that's what I've gotten the last 2 times with the 2 recent purchases. Presentation pages. You have your marriages and your deaths and presented to and births, just like always. And here is a title page. I did not notice this. As a matter of fact, it's crinkled again. For some reason, it's sucking into the to the spine there, and I'm trying to be as careful as I can with it. And it's even gotten to this now. That hasn't happened with the NLT, so just be mindful that maybe it's just this calfskin, because I've noticed that the edge lining here, this tab, didn't make it all the way to the spine like the other side and all the other ones I've seen. It's kind of wonky there a little bit. Maybe that's what's causing it. I have no idea. And if you have any idea, I think I've seen something on it one time. You can leave a comment in the comment section about it. But see, it's kind of gotten to where it's quite a few pages now, and it's rather annoying because I've been super careful with this Bible ever since I got it, so I don't know why it's doing that, but yeah, it's getting worse. But anyway, you have your forward, your contents, your forward, there's your copyright page if you want to just pause that. It's the same as always. It's the Royal Youngblood, the French company that nobody wants to pronounce. See, it's gone clear down to the Old Testament now, but title pages. Thank God, thank Yahweh, it hasn't gotten here yet. Hope it doesn't in His Word. But here's Genesis. As you can see, it's one column, verse by verse. Very beautiful setup. It's also 10-point Milo font. And here are your cross references down here. So on the inside are your, it's better if you show it on the next page because it's hard to understand on the first page of Genesis. But on the inside are your cross references. On the outside are your footnotes. The accents, the red vertical line divides the footnotes and the cross references, the red accents for the verse numbers, so it makes them easier to find. I have been stuck in these. Sometimes it's distracting because I'll try to read straight through, but I'll see a 1 or a 2 because they start over in each verse, 1 and 2. So 7 will have a 1. If 8 has 1, they'll have a 1. So see, 6 has 1, 2. 7 has a 1, but no 2. So there's no footnote for that, obviously. There's only one footnote in verse 7. On the subject of the footnotes, while I'm on that subject, I'll really quickly go to the poetry section, and this also is something I wish they would have done throughout the Bible. Put the verse numbers on the outside of the text. But this kind of got me yesterday when I was reading Psalm 119, because if you look over here, it goes 55, 56. Well, I was reading those and reading the footnotes and everything, and then I went over here and I seen the Lord is my portion. I have promised to keep your words. You see the 1 by promise, so you come down here to the footnotes. There's no 57. I was like, what the heck? It's over on this page, probably because they didn't have room, but be aware that there's probably other spots in the Bible that do that. In this certain Stridon, they probably have other pages like that. This is just one of them that I noticed yesterday. So just keep that in mind. If that's something that would bother you, then you might want to wait for later editions and different translations, or if you like the NASB 2020, and I have really started growing to like this translation, especially coupled with the LSB. I have that online. I have a hard copy coming in 2 days, or no, tomorrow I think. And I probably won't have a review on that until my next day off, Monday or Tuesday, so I'll try to get a review on that as well. Now the LSB handy size that I got does do what this does in the poetry throughout the whole Bible. Here's Matthew, the New Testament. Here's the New Testament title page. In between the New Testament and the Old Testament, you get the blank. Nope, you don't get the blank on this one. Excuse me, I misspoke. I think that was the NLT. So anyway, there's no blank sheet, just goes to the New Testament title page. And then straight into the New Testament. Another thing I wanted to point out was forgot what I was going to say. Something to do with... Anyway, sorry for rambling on. I try to do these spur of the moment so I don't have them rehearsed or whatnot, like many might. I don't know if they do. Maybe they're just better spoken than I am. But I do this on the fly, and I try to remember things as I go. I don't write things down necessarily. So I was talking about the LSB, and that totally got me off. But you can see they set aside the way it's laid out is really beautiful. The NASB2020 paired with the LSB is amazing, and I can see me using some of these cross references since they're Lockman 95,000 plus, and going to the LSB since it has no footnotes or cross references in the handy size that I'm getting the 5 Solas edition, and writing them in myself. And I may even get a journal from Schuyler to do so. Now the 5 Solas edition I'm speaking of obviously is not a Schuyler Bible. It is a Steadfast 316 publishing. And the trim size of this will be 9.1 inches by 6.1 inches and 1.3 inches thick, which is what, 3/10 of an inch thicker than the Schuyler Quintil NLT I reviewed the other day. And on top of that, okay, so I said the thickness. Anyway, I totally lost train of thought because I was going to show you something. Ezekiel is where I was going to go and show you, like, because some people like certain renderings, and I do prefer the more literal renderings in like Ezekiel 16. Not to say that it's not correct, because I don't know the original languages, and it's also not saying that it's taken away from the text, because it does say prostitution later on. But in 15 I noticed, but you trusted in your beauty and became unfaithful because of your fame, and you poured out your obscene practices on every passerby whom it might be tempting. Now that LSB will say like harlotry, you became harlotries, or other translations will say, like ESV will say whore and whoredoms, or NLT will say, even says prostitution. NIV will say prostitution. So just something to be aware of. If that's something that really bothers you, that it seems liberal, but it's not. It's just the way they rendered it. There's really no footnote stating that the literal sense of obscene there is. And I think it actually, obscene will show you an example. See, idolatrous practices with nations. So there's another thing just to be aware of. But other than that, the 2020 is really beautifully written. And another, I guess, critique, I hate doing that to Bibles, because again, like I'm an ESV fan, so the ESV does the same thing, so it doesn't bother me a whole bunch. But in Acts, like the only reason it bothers me, I think, is because it's the NASB family, and I'm really not understanding why they decided to do that, because as far as I know, the LSB has it in the text. There's probably other places where they've done this too. I think I've heard of some, but I just don't know them right off the top of my head. But Acts 37, Acts 8:37 to be precise, to be exact, is not in the text. It's down here in a footnote, and it's under the 36 footnote. It's telling you what it says. I don't know why they didn't keep it in here and put it in double brackets. I mean, they did do that with John 8, well, the end of John 7 and the beginning of John 8. So why did they do it with that? I'm just confused why the NASB 2020 translators felt the need to put it in the footnotes when it's always been in the text, and they just bracket it. But I don't know. I'm not the scholar, but these are, again, I can't say enough about this translation, because other than those things, if they bother you that bad, then yeah, you're probably not going to want it, but it doesn't bother me that bad. Philippians, again, Philippians 5, which, yeah, if you haven't seen a review about it yet, you're wondering what I'm talking about, because there's no such thing as Philippians 5. But in the Schuyler Bible, the Stridon, there is such a thing as Philippians 5, just at the top of the heading, which, again, doesn't really bother me, because you could probably fix that with by yourself. See, Philippians 3 and 4, and then you go over here and it says Philippians 5. A lot of people will complain and say that's unacceptable in such a high-end Bible, and there's a part of me that kind of like, ugh, I'm on the fence about that, because mistakes happen. I don't mind it. I don't sit there and stare at the the headings at the top anyway, the subheadings, whatnot, the title, the pages. You know what I mean? What I'm worried about is the text. This one reads really good. So, I mean, I take this over the NLT translation just because I'm a more literal guy. My wife now, she'll take the NLT. She likes to be able to read and understand, and you can understand this once you get used to it. But she's fairly new Christian, so she doesn't get into the textual criticism as much as I would. I will take this and read it with the LSB. Like, I'll read something like, hey, that sounds different. I'll go to the LSB, and it's similar, and it means the same thing ultimately. It's just worded different. So, I mean, so far, I think that's about it. Yeah, it's like I said, it's Smithstone, red under gold, as you can see. Gold in some spots was kind of different, and I think this might be what's causing that title page to do that, actually. Holding my Bible like this. If you can see, that's lifting that cover up, and that might be something to do with this being over here. But I don't know. I've never had it happen with other Bibles. And it's not that big of an issue. It's going to go flat eventually. It'll have creases usually, but they'll go away for the most part. Again, I don't want it to happen in Genesis, and it hasn't happened yet. But again, it is a beautiful layout, single column. You can't beat it. I just love the way a single column Bible looks. I keep feeling that with my finger, that ribbon there, and I keep thinking that maybe I've creased that one too, but I haven't yet. So it's a 28 GSM Indopaque paper, so it is, this actually feels thicker than the Schuyler Quintel NLT, and it even looks thicker. The opaqueness, if you want to go back to my other review, you can see that the ghosting is more minimal on this for some reason. I don't know. It's supposed to be the same paper. I mean, you're going to have ghosting here in the white area of the page, but that's also a lot worse on video than it is in person. It's just really beautifully laid out. And again, watch for my other review. Thanks guys for watching, and I hope I wouldn't deter anybody from getting this. I just wanted to be honest and let you make your own decision, because if I told you everything was perfect in it and then you get it, that's on me, because I told you everything was perfect. They're not always perfect, but it is perfect in its own way. And I know that's hard to explain, but it's true, because although this may be off, as you can even see here, this yap, it's still a beautiful Bible. You're not going to get that at your local Walmart. You can only get these at Schuyler, and for the most part, these are more of this is the exception and not the rule. Most of the time, their Bibles are completely and utterly perfect. The only time you hear a lot of people will review or comment is when something's wrong. And that's just that way with anything in life. If everything's perfect, they don't say a word, they don't praise it or nothing, they'll just be like, well, it's perfect. But if it's bad, they'll make sure that they make a stink about it. And I don't want to do that with this video. I would, if you knew that every one of these were like this, just like every one of them do have the Philippians 5 issue, don't let that deter you. I would definitely say buy this Bible without a doubt. Now, if there's other issues, that if they bother you that bad, yeah, you might not want to get it. Like single column. Some people like double column. Some people like red letter. This is a black letter text. That's another thing when I was messing around in the New Testament. I didn't mention that was black letter. I know this is all over the place, but again, I'm trying to save money to get a better camera, overhead camera, so I don't have to move around so much. But as you can see, it's very well done. Oh, that was another thing I was going to say when I lost train of thought from the LSB, bringing the LSB up, was a lot of people also complain about this, doesn't start on its own page, a new book. That to me is classic. I like that look because that's like the KJV cameo. They start on the same page. They won't go to a new page. I think that's classic, and that looks really good myself. So kudos to Schuyler for that. And I wouldn't change that myself, honestly, because I think most of us would like that. It saves room in the Bible. Sure, that's not going to be a whole lot of space taken up, but it is what it is. And then I better come back here. So you got Revelation back here. And now I don't know how this translation does it. I know some translations will put the end at Revelation, and some people don't like that. And this one does not. So it just says, the grace of the Lord Jesus be with all. Amen. Here's your concordance. 3-column. Now I don't know. I didn't count this one like I did the NLT. I'm not as prepared, obviously, as you can tell the way I was stammering on my words. So it starts on 1801 and ends, so that you can do the math yourself. 1801 and ends I would say 1905. So what is that, 104 pages? So there's that. So here is your Bible maps by Schuyler. The usual Schuyler maps, matte finish, beautifully done. This, as you notice, does not have note paper. It's probably to save room, because being single column, you're going to make the Bible thicker and thicker the more you add to it. And some people wouldn't mind that. So in the future, I think they should probably do a vote system on the Facebook page, or even their evangelical.com page. Kind of put it a little bit everywhere, all of their social media places, and ask people what they prefer. I know, because to me, some people will say, well, give it the option, do both. I get they're a bigger company and they've had success, but you're not going to have success by making a bunch of Bibles that aren't going to sell. So if somebody prefers a concordance, or not concordance, excuse me, notebook paper, and they print a bunch of those and they print a bunch without, but the ones with sell and the ones without don't sell, or vice versa, they're out that money. So probably be better if they did a voting system and just went with the majority rules. I know a lot of people like thin Bibles, because that is a thick Bible. It also advertises this is 4 pounds, so be aware of that. It is much heavier than my NLT Quintel, but I have bigger hands, so it's not horrible for me to hold on to. Now, it is slick. I will note that. But see, I can read that just one-handed even. And it doesn't really, I sit here for 3 or 4 hours with it in my hands. Obviously, you switch hands or whatnot, but never noticed it really being a horrible. And then I was saying the other day that no one chose Songs of Songs of Solomon, and I almost forgot to do so myself. It just makes a longer video for you to watch. You fast forward through it, doesn't matter. To me, I just sit here so you can see the Bible that you're looking to buy, or thinking about buying, or did buy, and are waiting on getting. To me, this print is also a tiny bit darker than the NLT Quintel. They've really stepped up with their print game, because years back when I was buying these, to me it was a gray print, and it almost sometimes made it hard to see, especially in lower light. into talking, and then I flip through here, and it doesn't even, I don't even pay attention to where I'm at. Here's the Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, as some people know it to be. It's coming up. I wanted to see if this one showed who was talking. I think I told you the other one was young woman, young man. So the bride, the chorus, the bride. Solomon the lover speaks, the chorus, the bride, the groom. So as you can see there, they do that. Some people prefer that, some people don't like it. I actually prefer it because even in my KJV, I went and do a Bible like this, and I went and wrote who was talking beside the verse so I could know. Because sometimes it gets really confusing when it's just ran on. And we should be grateful to God that we get His Word broken up in verses, because originally, in the original, there's no verse, there's no punctuation like that we have, you know. It's just one long thing from right to left in the Old Testament. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy these little silly reviews I do, and my stammering and my forgetfulness, but at least I remembered what I was talking about. As the books does not start necessarily on a new page. And you probably might be able to get an idea of that in the Old Testament as well. Get through Jeremiah here. See how it goes into poetic again. Paragraph compared to the poetic. And it does have a nice touch when they do that. I'm not gonna lie. The LSB, I mean, it's got all these, but it might be a little too much overkill. It doesn't set apart anything, so to speak, in the way that this does, and this does start on a new page. They didn't have enough room to start it on the same page. There's Lamentations for you. Ezekiel. This is one of my favorite books for some reason, Ezekiel. I don't know why. I think it's that God just kind of lets himself be known in Ezekiel, like, hey, I am the boss, and he kind of gives Jerusalem the business. And it does that to all of us at one time or another. So, I mean, for the most part, what I've seen, it does start on a new page. Every now and then you get a book that starts on the... So, it may just be that the Old Testament doesn't have as many occurrences as that. Job Psalm does start on the same page as Job, but that's not horrible. And I apologize for my fingers getting in the way again. I'm not nothing fancy. I just do these, and my voice is probably going in and out because I have a habit of putting the phone away from my face to see what I'm doing, rather than what I used to do is just look through the camera, and that's probably what I should be doing now, because this is probably all over the place. Anyway, thanks for watching. God bless.